Well, hi, everybody. Here we are again with this week's episode of the LiveWell Hervey Bay podcast series brought to you by Social Shift. They're making change together throughout our community. And when I think about people who are at the tip of the spear in our community, this lady comes to the very top of my list. I have such admiration for her. I think she is one of the best administrators that I have seen, and this is Tanya Stevenson, who is the CEO of the Hervey Bay Neighbourhood Centre, who's been on the go now for more than 30 years. And just a fantastic organisation. Tanya, how you going? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for making
You made me nervous now.
Oh, true.
Saying too many nice things.
Well, because it's clearly evident that you're far more intelligent than me, I tried to just get you on the back foot at the start. All right.
You've done it.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about the neighbourhood centre because I think that's a it's a real beacon in the community there, and so many people know about it. I also reckon there's a heap of people who don't know the length and breadth of the stuff that goes on there. We could probably talk forever about all of the programs, and that might be a bit droll. But can you give me a little bit of an overview, like how many programs, for instance, are being run out of there that have all have the heart of the community as their genesis?
So at the moment, we operate across 4 sites in the Wide Bay Burnett, and there's just over 30 programs, 68 staff, and 381 volunteers.
Wow, 381 volunteers. That's amazing. It's been a real common thread amongst many of the people who've been on this podcast series already, talking about the benefit of volunteering, and also, depending upon what station you are at in life, the activities that you do that bring you purpose to contribute.
Absolutely, and it does. Volunteering has so many benefits, and the research shows you're happier if you're volunteering and you're involved in your community in some way.
Well, I'm still one of those dreamers who thinks that Hervey Bay is still, a big country town. So I like it. I like it. I think it has an enormous sense of community, and I think it's really parochial as well. And I think that's identified when there are organisations like yourself or Fraser Coast Mates and other ones that sort of come to the fore, that people are really happy to give up their time or donate goods or money or whatever's needed to help with whatever initiative is being put forward. But I guess in terms of services across the Fraser Coast and how people can access them, are they defined into different types of services, like who leads them and who doesn't, and how does that work?
Absolutely. Like any other business, we have a structure.
Yep.
So we are broken into 5 different service streams. So we have multicultural, children, family and youth, aged and inclusion, enterprise and development, and our operations team.
Right. Okay, yeah. And I've heard you say in different forums that there's a difference between organisational-led programs and community-led programs. So what does that mean? What does that look like in practical terms?
Yeah, I guess getting people to understand the difference between an organisation-led, where, the government's giving us funding to deliver a specific project that they've already set up for us to deliver, like maybe a counselling service, it might be a transport service. But I guess moving into where the best outcomes happen for social change is when you have a community-led initiative. So some of those, if you look at our social innovators pitch nights,
yes,
they're the ones where we really get great ideas from the community. They're grassroots ideas with local community members banding together to then create some social change. And that's where the neighbourhood centre and most neighbourhood centres try to sit.
Yep.
We always try and connect with community-led initiatives before then just running off and doing something. So organisational-led always has a place. You need professional services, qualified people for certain roles.
Yep.
But a lot of the time, your informal support is actually a lot more impactful when you can get a group of community members to bring other people together to make change.
So how many... the Hervey Bay Neighbourhood Centre, to me, seems, maybe I'm a bit blinkered and possibly biased, but seems to be particularly strong. How many community centres like that are sprinkled all over the country?
There's actually 127 neighbourhood centres in Queensland. So they like to say there's more neighbourhood centres than McDonald's in Queensland.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that definitively that's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess, some of them are a lot smaller than us. I think we are one of the largest neighbourhood centres in Queensland.
Yes.
And I think that is because we have made such a great connection with the community. Everything that we do has always come from an idea from a community member that we've supported to work with them and then grow that into a program. And the social shift is a perfect example of that.
Indeed. Yeah.
It's the community coming and asking us for money to be able to get their idea up on and running, rather than the government saying, oh, we've, noticed an impact or increase in stats in this particular area.
Sure.
We're going to now roll out some funding and you need to deliver A, B, C, D.
So the social shift program, I suppose, was a significant contribution into communities, a really big program. Have you been really buoyed by the great ideas that have come forward and people have, really leaned into the opportunity of delivering some things that haven't been done before?
Yeah, I think there's been some really great ideas, but it has been a hard slog. I think the community, we have been conditioned that, well, there's a problem, that's the government, pay my taxes. We're really good at making those excuses or lying to ourselves.
Of course,
We're saying, oh, that's not my problem, or, that's someone else who's been funded to deliver that, or that person got themselves into that situation. So getting people to actually be forward thinking and saying, actually, I can see a problem and I do have the power to do something about it. And I think that has been missing from our community for a long time. And so encouraging people to have the courage to be able to get up and, pitch their idea and do their research as well, because most of our challenges are not unique to our area. They're worldwide, and there's some really great people out there with some great ideas that we can copy. And I always say to people, we have no original ideas. Everything that we've done has been from someone else.
Yeah, look, when I think about our own experiences with the social shift program, and this podcast series being one of them, about the unique opportunity it is to almost a bit different to what you're talking about, where it's somebody else's problem, where, hang on, we can be a part of the solution here, because if we think that there might be a need for something, then there's an opportunity for us to put an idea forward. And I'd almost be certain that not every idea that got put forward was qualified for funding or whatever the case may be, but a lot of really good ones would have.
Absolutely.
Which may not have happened otherwise.
No.
So I think it's important that people aren't apathetic towards that and see that everyone has a ability to make a positive contribution, I suppose. And you would equally, I suppose, know better than most people about what the structure of a community even looks like, in who in the community, how many people do you need to get an idea up and going?
Absolutely. And that's the false thing that I think most people think, is that, I'm one person, I can't make a difference, my idea won't make an impact, or no one's going to get on board, and they don't do anything. Whereas the research actually says you only need 5 to 7 people to come on board with you and make that idea come to life. Just start talking about it. Get people involved. And I guess, the pitch nights are for that. It's not really about the money. You don't always need to wait for money to get things happening. One of our best and my favourite projects is our Read Bears program. So we spend a lot of time baselining data for our region to make sure that we know what needs to happen before we just start, kind of hacking away at something and you don't do it right. So our Australian Early Developmental Census for our Year 1 students comes out every 3 years from the Department of Education, and consistently for the last nearly 12 years now, we are triple the state average for vulnerability already in our 5-year-olds, across the 5 domains, which is pretty sad. And so you kind of look at that and you go, oh, but what can I do? And so what we try and teach in our workshops around social innovation is that choose one piece of the puzzle that you're going to impact on. And we chose literacy. And so we actually looked at a program over in Norway where they give each Year 1 student a little knitted bear, and the kids then read to that bear every single night.
Okay.
And it creates a third person where the kid's more likely to read to the bear, and the parents are also more likely engaged because they got to read to the bear.
Yeah.
And we started with 3 pilot schools, and we had some lovely ladies who knit in our centre, but they were knitting all of these blankets and things that we really didn't have a big need for. So they now knit thousands of bears every single year.
Wow, okay.
I always joke when we have their morning tea of our little sweatshop that we've got going on in the neighbourhood centre of these ladies that knit these beautiful, colourful bears. And then every year 1 student gets these bears and they run them through over the term, the teachers, the program, which is as simple as just read to your read bear every night. And it costs us nothing. Like, all of the materials are donated. The ladies enjoy still socialising while they're knitting their read bears. And then we give them out for free. The schools follow the curriculum. So the program costs nothing. And every single teacher that has run it has come on board again. And we are now in 18 schools across Queensland and growing very quickly. So we need more people to knit some reed bears.
It's amazing. I mean, when I talk to people who are not from Hervey Bay and they ask me about why is Hervey Bay booming and the way that it is, and I say that the levers that drive this community are, I believe, are different to many other places. But listening to you talk, it makes me also realise that there's a lot of things that go on here that people don't know about. Like, they don't understand what some of the social issues might be, and the implications of those. You know, they go to work and they go home and they have a walk on the beach and have dinner and go to bed. You know, and not everyone's in that fortunate situation.
No.
And when you talk about statistics like that, like a triple the average, there's a lot of levers at that end of things as well that need, you know, people like yourself being thought leaders about how that can be addressed. And the neighbourhood centre, of course, is at the, you know, really at the tip of that spear. So do you get an overall sense then of the wider population about how many people are like in this section and how many people are?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a population of just over 60,000.
Yep.
So if you use that population pyramid, and we need, you know, the 11 to 16% in your top part, which is your base.
Yep.
And so we need about 7,000. You break that down into your groups led by 5 to 7 people.
Yeah.
We need about 1,000 community-led groups happening in our community.
Okay.
And, you know, we would come close.
Yes.
I think between, you know, you got your senior sits right through to your, you know, Fraser Coast mates, the Arts Links ladies who need our bears. Like, there's a lot, but I think we're still missing a significant portion of the population being engaged of those activities. And a lot of that social breakdown, I think, has come from COVID with people not getting re-involved, but also the red tape, the insurance, and some of your, you know, your sport, obviously, the financial obligations to be engaged in some of the groups is a barrier.
So I choose to live in a simplistic utopia where I think that everybody who lives in Hervey Bay comes from Hervey Bay and has a sense of community that I have, which I know is not true. And do you think that that is a driver or an issue for us because we're such a destination now, or Hervey Bay has become an attraction city for people to come and live at, but they don't necessarily have that parochial feel to it in it because they didn't come from here, and it doesn't mean that much to them. It's just a place to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually running a dinner next week to address this.
True.
With Queensland Health. Yeah. So they've got a high transition happening with their employees. So, you know, they last 3 to 6 months, they come here, they do their bit and they go. It's not a place they stay because they don't find connection, they don't feel like they belong. And so we thought we'd work with them and host a welcome to the Fraser Coast dinner.
Yep.
It's sold out in the first week.
Great.
I could have run 5 of them by the amount of people who wanted to come, which was great. Like, we thought, is this even a good idea or not? But basically just bringing them together next week to say, here's some, you know, cooked by our social enterprise cafe, beautiful food for dinner, but meet some new people, find connections. We've got a couple of organisations coming along to talk about what they do to see if they might get involved with them. But basically just giving them an overview of the community and saying, you know, here's the people to make connection with. if you want to find belonging in our community.
I think one of the things that gives me great hope for, Hervey Bay and the Fraser Coast region is we went to see a demographer recently who was talking about the trends of the population here, and I suppose the brain drain of when kids finish school and they all want to go down to Brisbane on the sunny coast and all the rest of it, and they do that. But by the time they get into their mid-20s or late 20s, and now I'm starting to think about a family of my own and home ownership and all the rest of it, there's a big return of people who grew up in Hervey Bay and it will always have that sense of home. Like my wife is one of them. She describes herself as a 40-something year Hervey Bay local yokel, but she spent a decade away, and now she convinced me to come and live here. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. So I think that bodes well for us into the future if we can recognise that we're not going to be able to keep everyone because they want to go off and do other things, but the life that we provide for them when they are here will make it more attractive for them to come back when they're at a sort of different station in life and really enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's big on the radar for the neighbourhood centre? I'm sure you're cooking up lots of different stuff. You can give us some scoops if you like.
Yeah, we actually just had our pitch night Tuesday night. Yep. So there was 10 community members that put forward some brilliant ideas.
Yeah.
But pretty much, I guess, on our radar at the moment is still housing.
Yes.
It's one of our biggest issues, and it's one of, but I think, the most successful outcomes that we have had in our community of multiple people doing really simple things to help address the housing crisis. And so I was lucky enough to actually present at the Queensland Community Development Conference about how Hervey Bay had actually pivoted to be able to support the housing crisis and how community members and organisations right through to property agents actually got on board to support our local community members through it. And so, we did everything from getting Comfort Kitchen up and going and having more meals right through to installing the Bless Box at the centre where people can drop off food so that people have access to food because they're spending a lot more money on rent if they've got a house.
Yeah.
Right through to the Sunshine Van. So we had some guys pull together the Bay's biggest sleep out, raise some funds, build that van so that we've got laundry and shower services now happening. The sleep bus through the Bendigo Bank. That was a great initiative. And I think a lot of people kind of came at the housing crisis and went, I can't build houses, so I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And getting people to actually get over that hurdle and say, well, there's actually multiple other ways how I can help and get involved. So we also did the local law change. So we had 6,000 people sign that petition to get the caravans in backyards. So at least families could help each other and stay in a caravan until we could find housing for our community. And we're currently just finishing a toolkit for housing at the moment where we know we need a lot more medicos coming in.
Yep.
But getting them here and then taking up housing is going to be a problem. We've got lots of elderly people living in 4-bedroom houses with, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 1 or 2 people living in them. It's a perfect time to be able to look at and give them a toolkit for boarding and telling them like the legal implications, the tax implications, and also then safety implications. So that'll be out in hopefully April, May, right before I think we've got about hopefully 60 coming in to address all of the skill shortages in our aged care facilities. And hopefully some of them will take up that option rather than taking a whole house. They may find that co-living. And the second one is our social isolation and loneliness. Which is a massive issue, especially for our elderly population.
I note your humility did not allow you to point out the obvious, which was between yourself and Councillor Jade Wellings. You were the drivers of the change to allow people to stay in the caravans in people's houses rather than be sleeping on the streets. And that was against some, I would say to you, fierce opposition from people within council. To be brutally honest, you were having none of it. And that was a piece of leadership that I was had nothing but respect for, because I reported on it a couple of times, and I thought what you're doing here just makes a lot of sense. And you've got local represented people saying it's an eyesore to see caravans in people's backyards when people are living on park benches, and it does make you wonder sometimes, why people aren't educated enough to understand these things. And so, I really take my hat off to you about that. It was a really first-class piece of work, and legislation was changed to make that happen. So well done to you. All right, what else you got for me? Give me some big time scoops with the neighbourhood centre.
Well, the neighbourhood hive is probably one of our best community led outcomes.
Yep.
So that was a big old shed that Bradnam's gifted over to the neighbourhood centre to turn into a youth and innovation hub.
Yep.
And so that whole redevelopment of that shed and fit out all happened via community. And so I think we ended up with about $450,000 donated to help us fit out and kit out and make sure that it had everything from the recording studio to the playground, because we have such a high teenage pregnancy rate, to be able to interact and try and include education with support for young families so that we can grow the employment rate and also increase our creativity and innovation in our community, because it is a culture. We really would love to see a lot more entrepreneurship happening here, but you have to grow it. They're not just going to turn up.
That's right.
So we are hoping, and we're starting to put it out there to the community, that we would like to do our next renovation. And we do need just over $1 million to make that happen. But thankfully, community members like Peter Metcalf, he came in and drew up all the designs for us and worked with an architect company as well who helped out. We've got the community consultation next week to get the community to say, what do you want to see? And turn that into a street university alongside more of that entrepreneurs, co-working, flexible working space, and try and create that availability, because our young people, we lose about 75% of our kids before they even get to year 12.
Right, yep.
They're not graduating. We're way below the state average.
Wow,
we have one of the highest suspension rates. Our maths and English is just not even up to scratch anywhere near where it needs to be. And if you're in a more challenged demographic as well, then you're nearly 50% likely not to graduate year 12.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like I have seen in the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, like almost a change in the trend of, if I don't go through to year 12, I'm not going to get a job. And I've had my wife and I, we're tribal kids go through high school. And I think part of the problem is that once the kids get into grade 10, like the pressure's on. Like you need to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I mean, I'm 52 years old. I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like seriously. So it like I left school when I was 15 in 1988, and it was really socially acceptable. But now it wasn't. But I think it's starting to come back. I think it's starting to come back where if you can get out, like you're just going to be a pain in the ass at school for the next 2 years. I'll go out and get a apprenticeship. And be 2 years in front of everybody else when they finish. Hey, I'm all for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I think that's a great idea.
It is. Yeah.
So this is probably a very broad question, but how are we going? Like if you look at Hervey Bay, right, how are we going compared to other regional cities of a similar population? Okay, I can tell by the look on your face that I'm not going to like the answer to this.
We always win all the wrong awards, Malcolm.
Okay, not that good with that, okay? No, fair enough.
I did see our digital literacy. We are one of the worst in the state.
Yeah.
So that's, the research for digital literacy is that if you've got digital literacy, so you can basically teach yourself how to learn and use the technology to do it, it's nearly a guarantee that you'll survive throughout your career.
Right.
It's one of the best predictors. However, our region, again, unfortunately, winning all the wrong awards, we are the lowest in digital literacy and competency. And it's not actually just because we have a high population of seniors. Our young people have not got access to that tech that's around in a lot of the other regions. So really looking at, we've been down to visit the Peregian Springs Digital Hub. And there's other, agencies, I guess, around Queensland who have really, the Townsville Street University they're doing some really innovative things where you get young people engaged. Like the gig economy is here, it's coming, and we're not teaching our young people about it. The side hustle is real too.
Of course, yeah.
And we just have nothing on it. So Illuminate is about to kick off again.
Right,
this is the second year of running. And I think it's one of our most successful programs in creating our business sector sharing their knowledge with the general public. So the last time we ran the 100 Days of Innovation and Creativity, we had over 120 workshops delivered in 100 days and over 1,400 people attended those workshops. And it was everything from droning through to videography, photography, digital marketing, social media, podcasting, how to start your own side hustle, writing a book, publishing a book. All of that now is actually at your fingertips. We have the tech available and anyone can do that now, but we're not teaching it.
You love it, don't you?
I do. I really do.
It's easy. Your enthusiasm for the whole shooting show is infectious, right? I don't know what they're paying you, but whoever's listening, they should be paying you twice as much, because good luck finding someone else who's going to do this gig as good as Tanya Stevenson is doing it. Okay, right. Let's switch gears a little bit and have a bit of fun before we finish. Oh, sorry, no. Everybody who comes to the LiveWell podcast series, has the opportunity to have some money donated on their behalf to a charity, because we know you're very busy and you've given up your time quite generously. So who would you like that donation to go to?
I'd love the donation to go to our Comfort Kitchen.
Perfect.
So every Wednesday night we feed about 120 people, and it's not just about the meal, it's about socialisation.
All of that. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I've fortunately had the privilege of having a long association with the Comfort Kitchen I think they just do an enormous job.
It is, yeah. And the volunteers, it's all volunteer run.
Yeah.
So they, lovely 3-course meal with all nutritious food, and a lot of it's donated from We Care Too, who are an amazing partner to us.
Yep.
So it's a good partnership, and the RSL also pay for some of the meat that we can't get from We Care Too. But it's just lovely. And to see the elderly mix with the families through to the homeless in a nice, safe, happy atmosphere, and they sit at the large tables and the volunteers serve them like a restaurant. It's a nice experience for them and those that just cannot afford to be doing that right now.
What's a piece of advice you would go back and give to your younger self?
Don't overcomplicate things.
Gosh, I hear that all the time. Don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, I love, there's a little story that I always, when I get overwhelmed with all these complex things, like, oh, what are we going to do? Just do beautiful things.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if you do that, people will see it and they will follow you.
Yeah.
And keep it so simple.
Kindness goes a long way.
It does. Absolutely.
25 years from now, I'm going to take a stab and say you won't be heading up the neighbourhoods, even though I hope that you would be, but I don't think you would be. What would you want your legacy to be from there when you look back on the body of work that you've already achieved, and no doubt the significant things that you will continue to do?
I think definitely still where we're at, we're creating connected communities. We're making sure that we are connected to the community in everything that we do. I think there's always that risk of organisations that run off and think they got tall poppy and we know everything, we can do everything. Services don't solve your complex social issues. It has to have community engagement, and that's why we keep such a close eye on having so much engagement from our volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering, please come and see us. We have so many things that you can do.
We'll put all the information on a slide at the end of this about how they can contact the neighbourhood centre and all that. You're down to your last $10. What do you spend it on?
Oh, $10. That's really hard.
Yeah, I've had some interesting answers. Someone said like a martini or a cup of coffee.
Oh, I don't drink and don't drink coffee either.
Oh, I haven't had a cup of coffee in my life, and when I tell people that, they look at me like I'm from Mars.
I'd probably buy some local seafood.
Oh, true.
Absolutely.
There you go. Well, for $10 you might get 2 potato scallops.
No, fresh. 5 prawns.
Oh, fair enough.
That was always my little internal celebration when I'd finish uni. I'd go buy like half a kilo of prawns because I was always poor as a university student. And I'd go get some fresh prawns and sit down the beach, de-traumatize myself from all the exams I've just finished.
Very nice.
And yeah, it's always a nice memory.
Well, Tanya, thank you so much for coming in today. I'm not embarrassed to say that I think you are one of the leading thought provokers in this region. Well done to you. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.